Good morning, everybody. My name is Sakina Awais, and today we'll be delving into the intriguing topic of how family support systems impact the lives of professional women in Pakistan. I have the honor of sitting down with Dr Firasat Jabeen, an esteemed expert in the field of mass communication. So, before we dive right in, I would like you to please give a brief introduction of yourself.
Thank you, Sakina, for having me here today. My name is Firasat, and I teach communications in the Department of Mass Communication at Foreman Christian College, and currently I'm also serving in the position of Department Chairperson. I joined FC College back in 2009 as a lecturer. However, I left to do my PhD in the US in 2014 and then came back in 2019 and rejoined FC College.
Yeah, okay, so I'll start by asking you, what made you want to study mass communication? Was it always your dream, or did you just...
Well, I have an interesting story here to share. So I remember when I was choosing my courses for my bachelor's, I did my bachelor's from Lahore College for Women, and I chose English literature and psychology. And I came across this subject, mass communication, from a friend. And at that time, I absolutely had no idea what the course was about, but the name sounded pretty fancy to me. So, and then at that time, we also did not have Google, we did not have smartphones, we did not have easy access to internet. One would actually go to internet cafes. My university used to have one, and students would go to internet cafe to spend some time on internet or to do some web surfing. So I remember at that time I actually did not know what mass communication was. However, like I said earlier, the name sounded pretty fancy. So I looked at some books of my friends, and that sounded interesting to me. So that is how I decided to choose this subject as one of the elective courses in my bachelor's. And later, when I finished my bachelor's, I decided to do master's in mass communication.
Oh, that's amazing to hear. It's a nice story. So basically, in your experience, what are some common challenges faced by professional females in Pakistan when it comes to balancing their family responsibilities and their career aspirations?
When I began my career as a lecturer, actually when I finished my master's, I was ranked second in the graduating class, which means I won a silver medal position. And since I was a position holder, I was immediately placed as a lecturer at one of the government universities, University of Sargodha. I actually passed the selection board of two universities. One of them was Lahore College for Women University, and the other one was University of Sargodha. And I opted for University of Sargodha. That's where I accepted my job offer. And the reason was my parents, they live in Jhang, and Sargodha was 2 hours drive apart from where my home was. So at that time, I remember the biggest problem that I faced was female housing. The university did have a hostel for female teachers, but that didn't have enough space. So I had to, they gave me a room in student hostel. I got married a year after I was working as a lecturer at University of Sargodha. And soon after I got pregnant with my first child, I started to realize that there was actually lack of support, institutional lack of support for females, especially who are at childbearing stage. There was no, daycare center in my institution where I was working, so I had to apply for leave. I went on a year-long leave for my son, who was very, young at that time. And I was still in that process when there was a position at FC College during the same time period, and then I accepted this job offer. And I remember in 2009 when I joined FC, still at that time FC College did not have a daycare center, although they were planning to have one. I had to go through a lot of trouble. I remember I checked different options in the city, and like in this metropolis at that time, they hardly have a couple of daycare centers. I went to visit daycare center at Punjab University. But I was also thinking about commuting options because I used to live in Neela Gumbad, Anarkali area at that time. So there was institutional lack of support, and also sometimes some people also lack family support, but I was lucky in that respect. I had huge family support both from my in-laws and from my parents, so I was able to get through this.
So, since you mentioned childbirth and the difficulties after it, it leads me to asking you about how several females in Pakistan have degrees and they're well educated, but they don't usually, lean into their career after giving childbirth. Do you think it has, it's due to their emotional and physical changes, or is it more because of the lack of sufficient family support systems?
I would say in Pakistani circumstances, like if we consider your question in Pakistan's context, I would say it's mainly because of lack of, support, societal support, and with that also institutional support. And it also needs a lot of hard work, a lot of motivation, and a lot of perseverance for a woman, especially who comes from a Pakistani, cultural background, to excel in education and in career.
Okay, so what do you think must be the contributing factors in general as to why women with degrees don't have?
Contributing factors toward what?
As to why women with degrees don't have careers or choose not to have careers?
I would say lack of motivation, and also sometimes discouraging circumstances as well. I remember when my son was born, I started my MPhil. Actually, when I was selected as a lecturer to serve at a government institution, University of Sargodha, I would like to tell you that at that time I only had master's degree, which was equivalent to 16 years of education. And that was the time period when HEC, Higher Education Commission, came into being. And if you remember, Dr. Taur Rahman was the first HEC chairman, and he was also elevating the status of university professors. That was the same time period when a university lecturer was elevated from grade 17 to grade 18. And at the same time, they started emphasizing the requirement of having an MPhil degree for university lecturers. So I had that pressure from university where I needed to enroll myself in an MPhil program, and I needed to, complete 18 years of education. So I remember when my son was born, I was actually 9 months pregnant when I began my MPhil program at Punjab University. And I was having midterm of my first semester when my son was born, and I remember relatives and family members who came to see him. They would always give me, like most of them would give me these kind of remarks. Well, are you still planning to finish your master's degree? How are you planning to do that? I don't think if you will be able to make it. We don't think if it's possible for you anymore. You already have an MPhil. You're already going to have another degree of being a mom. So I remember a lot of sort of discouraging remarks and sort of demotivation sometime as well. But like I said, I was lucky. I would say I was lucky that I was surrounded by supportive people. My husband, whenever it comes to education and career, he's very supportive, and so were my parents.
Oh, that's great to hear. So have you observed any differences in the family support received by professional women in urban areas of Pakistan versus rural areas of Pakistan? If so, how does it affect their career trajectories?
Well, difference of barriers faced by urban women or rural women. I would say rural women who come from rural background, of course, they face problems related to lack of facilities, lack of infrastructure, lack of resources. But it also depends a lot on your family background. If you have a supportive family, it doesn't matter if you're coming from a rural background or an urban background. So I was born and raised in Kasur. My parents, they lived in Kasur when I was born, and I was raised there. And I remember when I finished my matriculation, my parents sent me to Lahore College for Women University in my intermediate. And my parents, I come from a religious family. My parents are very religious, but whenever it comes to education, they are very supportive, and they are very progressive as well. Like I said, it doesn't matter if you're coming from a rural background or if you're coming from a from an urban background. So my parents lived in Kasur, which is a very small town, and it's hardly an hour drive apart from Lahore. It's a very, very small town actually. And also it's a town which is, I mean, majority of people belong to conservative leaning folks in Pakistan. But like I said, my parents, they were very supportive, and I was good in education. I would always get good grades. So my parents knew that I was interested in education and I was excelling well. So they wanted me to progress.
So most middle class and middle upper class families have female houseworkers, jinko like in our society we call them kaamwalis.
Yeah.
So now that these days there's this heresy going around that it's difficult to find them because they're more inclined towards getting educated. What's your opinion on that?
I am actually not in favor of having domestic help. Currently, I do not have any domestic help. You may not tend to believe it, but I absolutely do not. I just have a cleaner who comes for cleaning, my house, and he spends hardly 30 to 40 minutes because he does one portion each day, like lower portion one day and then the upper portion next day. So, and I do all my chores by myself. I learned this, I would say, I did my PhD in the US and I spent 5.5 years there, which was, which pretty long time of my life. And I tell this to people all the time that my experience in the US was very transformative in the sense I gained confidence in myself. When I went there, I had absolutely no help. You have to do everything from scratch, like from cooking to cleaning, to taking care of children, laundry, doing dishes, everything I had to do by myself. And here I had support. Like in Pakistan, you can get support. Like I would call my mother, she would stay with me. I would go to my in-laws and my husband's nieces and my husband's sisters-in-law, they would help me. And sometimes even I would get a maid if guests are arriving or I'm in that kind of situation. So I would get a maid who would help me. But there since I was doing everything by myself, I gained confidence of doing everything by myself. So still, and I think there is also an upside to that. My children, my boy is now 15 years old and I have a girl who is 13. So they also help me with chores, and they are also learning so many things because of that.
So the heresy, basically, like I said before, going around that it's difficult to find them because the uneducated females are more inclined towards getting educated or getting their children to be educated. Do you think it shows a positive impact in our society?
I wouldn't say that it's difficult to find domestic help. I would disagree with that because considering Pakistan's economic situation and considering inflation, I think it has affected everyone. And it has affected the poorest, the weakest, the most. So if you can afford having domestic help, there are a lot of people who are there to work for you.
So like you said before, economic situations really contribute towards all of this. So how do you think it's more the lack of economic power and everything that contributes to professional females not being able to do their things because they don't have sufficient backup to get educated, or is it really just the lack of motivation that they don't get educated?
I would say it's both. Economy, yes, it's affecting us, and it's affecting everybody, regardless of our family background, our ethnic, cultural, linguistic background. It's affecting everybody. And it's also lack of motivation. So we do have, Pakistan, come on, is a patriarchal country. Boys are favored, upon girls. So I would say it's actually both lack of economic resources and lack of motivation too.
How do you think cultural norms and societal expectations influence the level of family support received by professional females in Pakistan?
How do cultural norms affect family support?
Yeah, received by professional females in Pakistan. Or societal expectations in general.
I would say that cultural norms, societal expectations for women, I think they are one of the biggest barriers in for a woman's progress. That's how I see it. Um, I have told you this before, that my parents are very supportive, especially whenever it would come to education. Actually, I'm the only daughter of my parents, and I have three brothers. And I remember when I was I finished my matriculation, and my father decided me to send to Lahore for my intermediate education. Though Kasur also had a degree college for women, my parents decided, my grade was excellent when I did my matriculation, and I was able to secure admission at Lahore College for Women. And my father, when he decided to send me here, I remember how much resistance he had to face from my uncles, not just my uncle, other family members, and that included his uncles even as well. So I would say societal norms are definitely one of the biggest barriers. But there is one thing I tell this to female students, and in my postgrad class and in my undergrad class as well, and also to my daughter, that we have to support ourselves with support. We have to surround ourselves with supportive people. So there is always support around us. We need to have people who hold us up. So first I had my parents, and then my husband as well. So I'm lucky and I'm blessed that I was surrounded by all these supportive people who were always there to be with me, to stand by me, and to support me.
So what would you say to the females that do not have the supportive background and still want to have a career? So what is your opinion on that in general?
A lot of perseverance, of course, is needed in their case. But again, I would say that they need to find the support. They need to build a support network. There are always people around us. We need to find them. It can be sibling, it can be your cousin, it can be a friend even. So have those people, and having supportive people around you, it's like having positivity around you, having motivation around you, and that's important. And I say this all the time to my students and to people. I mean, many people have seen me saying this, that we cannot control what we have, but we can control what we do. So that's what we should be doing, right? So again, find support, build a support network, and surround yourself with positive people. I think that's the hope one can look for.
Definitely. So do you think there's a difference in family support received by professional women in Pakistan and other regions?
Well, I'm not sure what you mean by other regions. There are countries where that are still struggling for women empowerment, and when we look at South Asian countries, Pakistan is not alone in them, and many advanced countries, they also have problems related to women empowerment, and they also have problems where women do not want to be treated less. Women want to be treated equal, I would say. So in this struggle, Pakistan is not alone. However, in terms of gender inequality, I would say, problems and problems are rampant in Pakistan. Pakistan may be worse. However, again, Pakistan is not the only country that has problems related to gender inequality or women's subjugation.
So what is your opinion on feminism? Are there any cultural societal shifts happening in Pakistan due to its globalization?
Feminism, I would say education is, I consider education as a big catalyst for change. If we really want to bring change, I think education is a key. Another thing, if you are asking this question, if a change is happening, I see it happening, and I think mass media is playing a vital role in that. Uh, at least there are now these forums where women can raise their voices and they can be heard. Every year on March 8, we have a strong female representation in the form of Aurat March. So, at least now, these sort of rallies and these sort of gatherings, I think they are gearing up, public debate, and there is this ripple effect that we also see happening.
So, to basically ask you about it in more depth, how do you think media in Pakistan has affected the entire, race of it?
The entire what?
Entire thing about professional females in Pakistan.
Yeah.
How do you think media has played a role in it?
Well, if you ask me to analyze, the functioning of Pakistani media in the context of, helping women raise their status in society and that kind of thing, I would say media does have the potential to play a significant and positive role. However, it has played, if it has played that, I do not think so. Because I would say Pakistani media has actually reinforced the status quo. And by status quo, I mean, they have maintained the existing order. Pakistani media has perpetuated and promoted stereotypes a lot. The other day, I was talking to one of my students who was my thesis supervisee, like he did his thesis with me, and he was studying how all these advertisements, they promote stereotypes among women. Consider all the advertisements related to detergents, consider all the advertisements related to beauty products, and even cooking oils. So all of them, I mean, we see only women doing chores. Men are shown to be breadwinners, and women, these are women who do chores. So there is this famous slogan, amma talo mein pakao. You have heard that. So why is it only amma talo mein pakao? Why it's not abba talo mein pakao? And there are several other things. I mean, consider all detergent advertisements, consider all not just detergents, consider all dishwashing detergents. So it's women, and laundry detergents, it's women who you see doing chores. So in a way, I would say Pakistani media can play a positive role, can play a significant role. It has, to some extent. It has provided a platform for women to speak up, to raise their voices. However, at the same time, it has also produced and promoted stereotypes. So yeah, when it comes to women representation, I would say it's Pakistani media still needs to go a long way.
Well, I agree completely. So, can you share any success stories or inspiring examples of professional women in Pakistan who thrived in their careers?
A success story?
Yeah, or anybody you know who has thrived in their careers due to sufficient family support.
Yeah, I think I would talk about my professor. When I was writing my dissertation my PhD dissertation in US. Actually, in US, you have to form a dissertation committee, and the chair of that committee serves as your supervisor. So the committee usually have 4 to 5 professors, and the chair of that committee, she was a professor in my department from where I did my PhD, and she once told me, and I remember she and I were presenting together at a conference, and I was still in second or third year of my PhD, and she shared her story with me, how difficult at one point it became for her, to pursue to continue her studies and to pursue her career. She told me she was just 16 when she gave birth to her daughter. And she had all this societal pressure. She had pressure from family, especially from her parents, to give up on her child and all of that. And she told me the story of her tenacity and her perseverance, and how she managed to survive in her studies, and then later on she did her master's and then her PhD, and then she came in academia, and she was a successful professor. Like despite all these circumstances, how she was able to manage it, and she became a successful professor. And she retired just this past year. I think this was very inspirational and very motivational for me, at least at that point, and I'm sure my listeners would also find it motivational. So it doesn't matter whatever circumstances you face or whatever hardships come your way, just do not give up and do not lose hope. And I think it's again very important to find supportive people around you and have that sort of positivity that you need at that time to go further and to move further in your life.
These are some definitely very inspiring words, but before we end our interview, I'd like to ask you a last question. So what strategies or initiatives can be implemented to raise awareness and encourage more family support for professional females in Pakistan?
Education. And I talked about this already. I would still like to emphasize education. It's very important to educate our girls. They are future moms, and they are, in that sense, they are the ones who build not just the family, the whole institutional network. So it's very important to educate them. I am a Fulbright scholar. I did my PhD with Fulbright, and I know that Fulbright is actually cultural exchange, but they also believe in the power of education. I also believe that educational experience is always highly transformative and invigorating. So if we really want to invigorate our nation, and especially our women, I think education is the key.
All right. Thank you so much. It was amazing to hear your opinion on all these things. And honestly, I really like to talk to you because it's amazing to hear professional females. My mother, she dropped out of university after getting married, not because of family pressures, just because she didn't want to. Mm-hmm. So it's really amazing to hear your opinion and everything. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Good to be with you.